So, a wild and frankly disturbing story out of the state of Utah. A transgender woman and her partner are accused of kidnapping her child, allegedly to go take her to Cuba and get gender reassignment surgery.
So the father.
Madeline Rivera live in Washington with more on this. Maddie, what do we know?
Hey, good morning, Bill. So the case prompted the Justice Department to send a government plane to Cuba to bring the 10-year-old child back to the U.S. Federal officials say the child's biological father, Rose Inessa Effington, who's now a transgender woman, and her partner took the 10-year-old for what was supposed to be a camping trip in Alberta, Canada, late last month. But they never made it to their hotel or campground. Instead, after crossing the Canadian border, the couple allegedly flew from Vancouver to Mexico City. Then they took another flight from Mexico to Havana. All of this happening, by the way, without the knowledge and permission of the child's biological mother. Court documents don't state whether Rose and her partner were actually planning on getting the child gender-affirming surgery in Cuba, but the FBI says they found notes at the couple's home with instructions from a D.C. mental health therapist to, quote, send the therapist the $10,000 and instructions on gender-affirming medical care for children. Rose's partner had withdrawn that exact amount in late March, per the complaint. Family members of the 10-year-old boy say they were worried Rose had manipulated him to identify as a girl. Rose's brother tells the New York Times she had been pushing for the child to get transition surgery since he was 5 years old.
What?
This seemed to be clearly all be coming from Rose. Rose's brother says it was heartbreaking and hard for me to see. Rose and her partner have been charged with federal international parental kidnapping laws. They'll face the remainder of their court case in Utah. Bill.
So the father of this child kidnapped his own child and tried to get them a gender affirming surgery done at 10 years old. And he's been attempting to try to get this done since the child was 5 years old. You're trying to give your child a life altering surgery that they cannot reverse. Like, that is such reckless and extreme behavior to be trying to put your minor child through irreversible surgery. And then all while trying to do it without the consent of the mother. Hopefully, now that the father has been arrested and they better be charged for child endangerment and kidnapping, that the mother can file to have that father never be around that kid ever again. And the worst part about it, which I didn't see a lot of people mentioning, is the $10,000 that was supposed to go to a therapist in DC that coordinated with this bullshit. So you convinced or helped this person find this place in Cuba for him to take his child, kidnap his child, and go get surgery done to his irreversible surgery without the mother knowing? Why isn't the fucking therapist in jail too? Like, am I tripping or did I hear that correctly?
They found notes at the couple's home with instructions from a D.C. mental health therapist to, quote, send the therapist the $10,000 and instructions on gender-affirming medical care for children. Rose's partner had withdrawn that exact amount in late March.
Yeah, exactly. So lock everybody up that was involved. And this is just so sad, and it makes me so sick, especially when you see at these rallies when some of these people are questioned and they're like, oh, when do you think your child thought that they were a transgender? And they're like, oh, at 2 years old. At 2 years old, that little motherfucker did not know what he wanted to be, let alone at 5 years old when they were trying to start it off. If you would have offered that child a cookie or transgender surgery, they would have chose the cookie. At 10 years old, if you would have offered a child a cookie or some damn surgery, they would have chose the cookie. Like, it's so sickening. It makes me feel so disturbed to my soul, because why would you want to put your child through that? Why would you want to forcefully put your child through that? Your kid wants to be a kid. They don't want to go to Cuba and go get some gender affirming surgery done. And the worst part about it is feeling that you can trust the other parent with their own child, and you can't, because they done stole the kid, took them across the fucking country to secretly try to get some irreversible shit done to that child. Imagine if the surgery would have went through, what kind of mental trauma or turmoil that they would have put that kid through permanently. That's why it breaks my heart so severely when I see the horror stories of kids coming out as they got older on basically like regretting getting permanent surgeries done to their bodies or taking medications at such a young age to transition them. And they're like, these are things we can't take back. These are things that are irreversible. And now I look at my body and I regret doing these things because I was influenced to, instead of getting the proper mental health that I needed to get. You have these therapists that are getting licensed to actually take part in these delusions. They're not helping these people. They're not giving them the proper help. They're feeding into the delusions. Now, look, because of this reckless behavior, a child's life could have been altered for the rest of his life. And the worst part about it is that the government is not helping. Look at in California and in certain places where they're actually taking the rights away from parents who are not affirming their child's identity. If a child wants to go by this, they have to respect that. It's my child. If I don't want to do that, I don't have to fucking do that. But not in some of these places. No, in California, your child can get taken away from you if you don't. But when shit like this should be frowned upon, y'all are actually helping people in certain states get away with it. Y'all are doing more harm to these children than good. We're supposed to be protecting the kids, not making laws that strip rights away from parents who don't want to indulge in altering their children's bodies. And the thing that gets me more upset about stories like this is when you talk about it as a conservative content creator, you have the liberals going in a frenzy in your comment section like, this is not happening, this is a lie, we don't go after the kids, when I'm constantly posting these similar types of stories of y'all going after the kids though. And the sad part at the end of the day about all of this is, as a parent, you have such a huge influence on your child. So just imagine the brainwashing that this father was putting his son through and trying to convince him that what they were doing was right, if anything, instead of taking part in this child just enjoying their childhood. You wanted to alter this child's life forever to match what you chose to do with yours. That is so fucked up and sick in the head.